Water, an abundant commodity in nature, is the very foundation on which humanity rests. Human history begins and coincides with the existence of water. One of the main concerns of prehistoric man was to secure access to water. Therefore, sites close to water sources were always chosen for the creation of the first settlements. The area of Attica, the womb that gave birth to the all-important and hugely influential ancient Greek civilization, had a dearth of water sources. According to myth, the Olympian gods Poseidon and Athena laid claim to the name of the city. The citizens preferred the olive tree that Athena offered them. Poseidon, wanting to punish them for not choosing his gift, water, endowed Attica only with sparse water sources. Thus, even in antiquity, the water supply of Athens presented a problem, which had to be solved by the construction of aqueducts that brought in water from distant locations. The Hadrian Aqueduct and Reservoir were the most important hydraulic works constructed during antiquity, ensuring the water supply for the city of Athens. They were constructed during the 2nd century AD by the Roman Emperor Hadrian. Both edifices were operating, albeit with large periods of inactivity, until the mid-20th century. In the year 1834, following the liberation of Greece from the Ottoman Empire, Athens was declared the capital of the Greek nation. The bad quality and lack of water, the inexistent infrastructure, combined with the rapid rise of the population of Athens at the turn of the 20th century due to the influx of refugees from Asia Minor, made a very difficult everyday life for the inhabitants of the city, at the same time constituting a public health hazard. The water quota per person was approximately 10 litres of water per day. In many areas of Athens, the inhabitants had to obtain their water from common faucets, only once every 4 days, and for a limited time period of 1 or 2 hours. The call for the construction of new facilities for the water supply of the city had become paramount. The municipal authorities of the city and the central government spent many an hour on discussions as to the best possible solution for the water supply issue. In order to construct any infrastructure at all, financial and technical support was necessary. For this reason, an international competition was proclaimed regarding the design of a system for the water supply of Athens. The proposition submitted by the American firm ULEN & Company was chosen. ULEN's design provided for the construction of a dam and an artificial lake in Marathon, at the northeastern region of Attica, the construction of a water transportation tunnel to Athens, the construction of a water treatment plant for the purification of the water in Galatsi, and the construction of a distribution network of the potable water in the cities of Athens and Piraeus. The contract signed in December 1924 between the Greek state, the American firm ULEN & Company, and the Bank of Athens for the construction of the final water supply works for Athens' Piraeus suburbs was ratified by the Greek Parliament in April 1925. The works began in October 1926. Present at the inauguration of the works were the Archbishop of Athens, Chrysostomos, the Director of Public Works, Angelos Ikonomou, and the General Manager of ULEN Company, Roy Gaussman. The dam, the tunnel, the water treatment plant, and the distribution network were all constructed simultaneously, so that they would be able to function as a unified system as soon as they were completed. All works were completed by 1931. The Greek Water Company undertook the operation of these as well as of subsequent water supply works until 1980, when the Athens Water Supply and Storage Company, known as EYDAP, took over. The Marathon Dam was constructed at the conflux of the stream Charadros and Varnavas, so that it would collect all water of the surrounding area. The dam is 54 meters high and 285 meters long. The core of the dam consists of a cement, stone, marble and pumice compound. The impounding reservoir has a storage capacity of about 45 million cubic meters of water. Approximately 2,000 workers were employed at the Marathon construction site, with housing and nourishment provided free of charge. At the same time, colossal sums were expended on the protection of the workers from the mortal illnesses of the time. The Marathon Dam is the only dam the world over which is externally panelled by marble in its entirety, and notably white Pentelikon marble, the marble with which the Parthenon was built. The refugees from Asia Minor, experienced and well-educated artisans of the time, worked with alacrity as well as competence, using their chisels, wedges and hammers on the rough surface of the marble. The dam had a marble spillway that provided an escape route for the surplus water caused by intense rainfalls or low consumption due to developing water networks. A marble intake structure was constructed for the supply of the Boyati Tunnel with water. There, by means of specially constructed valves, the quantity of water entering the tunnel was regulated. An exact copy of the treasury constructed by the Athenians in Delphi was erected at the base of the dam, as a symbol of the victory of the Athenians and human civilization over the drought. The original monument in Delphi was erected in memory of the great victory of the Greeks against the Persians in Marathon. The Boyati Tunnel was constructed to transport water from the Marathon impounding reservoir to Athens. Its construction was completed in February of 1931. The tunnel is 13.5 kilometers long. Running through Mount Pendeli, it reaches the Helidonu area in Kifisia. From there, another transfer pipeline leads the untreated water to the water treatment plant under construction in Galatsi. A total of about 450 people worked on the construction of the tunnel. The works were rather demanding technically and called for special machinery, the very best that the technology of the time had to offer, which operated with pressurized air and steel components. The ULEN construction sites provided an education on modern methods for the engineers of the time. In order to expedite the opening of the tunnel, the excavators worked from two opposing points of departure towards a common meeting point. In order to facilitate and expedite the construction works, an elevatory mechanism was used, which moved inside a 165-meter deep shaft. The same mechanism was used for the removal of debris from the tunnel, as well as for the transportation of the support rings into it. Reinforced concrete rings were used for the support of the tunnel, lining its interior. The concrete rings were constructed at the construction site by means of special forming blocks, which were filled with concrete, wherein a metal rod was placed as means of reinforcement. The port of Chalkis, being a nodal point, was used for the transportation of raw materials and for the provisioning of the construction sites, because it was more accessible than the port of Piraeus. The area of the port was upgraded and materials were transported to the construction sites of Marathon by rail. There are pictures showing trolleys transporting cast iron pipes and other materials which were not only intended for the Marathon construction sites, but also for the construction of the water supply network for the metropolitan area of Athens. The trolleys also transported debris for disposal from the excavation of the tunnel. Another construction site was simultaneously set up in Galatsi. There, the water treatment facilities were constructed, where the disinfection of the water would take place. The maximum treatment capacity of the installation was 70,000 cubic meters of water per day. This plant is still functional, having been extended with new units that augmented its water treatment capacity to 500,000 cubic meters per day. EYDAP has renovated and modernized all the old units. At the same time, works were in progress for the construction of a drinking water distribution network beneath the roads of Athens and Piraeus. The laborers worked under harsh conditions, surrounded by the dust of the dirt roads of both cities, laboring heavily to place and weld the pipes together, and new water meters, so that a primary water distribution network, 880 kilometers long, could be constructed from scratch. The appropriate explosives were used to open the ditches. Hemp and molten lead were used for the connection of the pipe segments. Before the ditches were filled, the pipes were hydraulically tested. Dam, tunnel, water treatment plant, distribution network. A complex water supply system that was completed in 6 short years. The aim to achieve water supply for Athens and Piraeus through the construction of a new network had finally been realized. After its completion, Marathon Dam was inaugurated with the President of Greece, Pavlos Koudouriotis, the Prime Minister, Eleftherios Venizelos, and the General Manager of ULEN, Roy Gaussman, in attendance. In 1933, with the Marathon works already in operation supplying the city with water, the Greek authorities decided to highlight the importance and success of the new works. The main goal of the campaign was to convince the inhabitants of Athens to stop depending on free water of doubtable quality from local wells or from the neighborhood water delivery man, and to connect their homes to the new water supply network. Water from the network would be at a higher price. However, its excellent quality and quantity would be assured. With this aim, an exhibition was set up in Zapion, whereas solely for the occasion and in order to impress, fountains were placed at the pillars of Olympian Zeus, from which great amounts of water gushed out towards the sky. Besides the general public, Pavlos Koudouriotis and Eleftherios Venizelos, the President and Prime Minister of Greece, again graced the ceremony with their presence. Today, the dam, the man-made reservoir of Marathon, the Boyati Tunnel, the water treatment plant in Galatsi, and the distribution network having fully achieved the goal for which they were constructed, are still a vital part of the water supply of Attica, which is managed by EYDAP. Having lost none of its monumental splendor, located as it is in a landscape of unsurpassed beauty, the Marathon Dam still remains one of the marvels of technology, created for the benefit of the population of Attica. In the area surrounding the man-made reservoir of Marathon, there is a small but interesting museum. Inside the small museum, the history of these hard but industrious times unfolds. The visitor can view the tools used at that time, as well as original machinery that facilitated the construction works. Useful tools like drills, chisels, duplicators, radio transmitters, and vintage telephone switchboards, acetylene lamps, center bits, heating stoves, even caliper splints in case of accidents, demonstrate the magnitude of planning, prowess, and efficiency involved in the project. Outside the museum, the trolleys, as well as one of the remaining heavy-forming dies that were used during the excavation and construction works of the Boyati Tunnel, are exhibited. Memories and souvenirs of an unforgettable era of innovation and creation. In the mid-1920s, a small cosmogony took place in Marathon. Man and science joined to subjugate the forces of nature and use them to serve human needs. The life of the inhabitants of Athens and Piraeus would never be the same. Clean water began to flow, providing the means for cleanliness, hygiene, and respectable living conditions. Water will continue to offer its valuable gifts to the land of Attica, as well as to the whole of mankind, provided that its use is dictated by prudence and sense. Abundance is no excuse for greed and waste. The lack of moderation and respect towards this invaluable resource disrupts its natural cycle, constituting a threat towards human life and undermining the future and the dignity of human existence.